Good morning, everyone. I am Mansi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Today, we will continue our discussion on user experience research skills with Part 2, Interviewing. In the previous lecture, we focused on observation as a research method. We learned how observation helps us understand user behavior by carefully studying what users do in real life environments. We also saw how observation allows us to capture user actions, patterns, and challenges as they naturally occur. In today's session, we will build on that foundation and explore another essential research method, which is interviewing. While observation helps us understand what users do, interviewing helps us understand why they do it. This difference is extremely important in UX research because user behavior is often influenced by internal factors such as motivation, expectation, emotions, and prior experiences. For example, a user may stop using a feature in an application. Though observation, we can see that the user has stopped interacting with the feature. However, observation alone cannot explain the reason behind the behavior. The user may have found this feature confusing, unnecessary, or difficult to use. Only through interviewing can we uncover these reasons. Interviewing allows researchers to directly communicate with users and explore their depth in thought. It helps us understand user needs, frustrations, preferences, and decision-making processes. These insights are critical for designing products that are not only functional, but also intuitive and user-friendly. In today's lecture, we will begin by revising the concept of research plan, which forms the foundation of any research activity. After that, we will move on to Interviewing 101, where we will discuss the goals of interviewing, core interviewing skills, types of biases, examples of bad questions, and the structure of a UX interview. By the end of this session, you will have a clear and detailed understanding of how to conduct effective interviews and how to ensure that the research findings are reliable, unbiased, and meaningful. Today's session will mainly cover two topics. The first topic is research plan. In this section, we will revisit how to build a research plan. Although we discussed this in previous lecture, it is important to reinforce this concept because interviews must always be conducted within a structured and well-defined framework. The second topic is Interviewing 101. This is the main focus of today's lecture. In this section, we will explore several important aspects of interviewing in detail. We will begin by understanding the goal of interviewing and why it is useful in UX research. Then, we will discuss the core interviewing skills that every UX researcher must develop in order to conduct interviews effectively. Next, we will examine different types of biases that can affect interviews. Bias is one of the most critical challenges in research, and understanding it is essential for collecting accurate data. After that, we will explore examples of bad questions and understand how poor questioning techniques can negatively impact the quality of responses. Finally, we will learn how a UX interview is structured using a moderator's guide, which helps researchers conduct interviews in a systematic and professional manner. Together, these topics will help you understand how interviewing is conducted effectively in UX research. Before conducting interviews, it is essential to have a well-defined research plan. A research plan can act as a roadmap for the entire study. It ensures that the research process is organized, structured, and aligned with the goals of the project. Without proper research plan, interviews can become unstructured and may fail to provide meaningful insights. The first step is building a research plan, is understanding what team is trying to learn. This steps involves clearly identifying the objective of the research, For example, the team may want to understand why users are not complementing a checkout process or why they are not engaging with a particular feature. The second step is writing the project background. This section provides context of the research and explains why the study is necessary. This includes information about problems, the products, and the reason for the research being conducted. The third step is identifying research questions and hypotheses. Research questions define what the study aims to discover. For example, what challenges users face while using this feature? Hypotheses are assumptions that researchers want to test, such as user finding this feature confusing. The fourth step is selecting a research method and describing the methodology. In this case, the method is interviewing. The methodology should clearly define how interviews will be conducted, how participants will be selected, what questions will be asked, and how the responses will be recorded. A clear methodology ensures consistency in the research process. It helps in analyzing data effectively. Overall, a research plan ensures that the research is focused, systematic, and aligns with both user needs and business goals. Developing a research plan requires time and careful effort. Typically, researchers allocate about 1 week to complete this process. During this time, different tasks are carried out in a manner that is structured and well organized. For example, the first 2 days may be spent conducting stakeholder interviews. These interviews help researchers understand project goals, expectations, and the constraints. The next 2 days are usually dedicated to developing the research plan. This includes defining research questions, creating hypotheses, and selecting appropriate methods. Finally, 1 day is used to conduct a kickoff meeting where the research plan is presented to the team. This structured timeline ensures that the research process begins with clarity and alignment. Once research plan is ready, the next step is to organize a kickoff meeting. A kickoff meeting brings together all stakeholders involved in the project. During this meeting, the researchers present the research plan and explain their goals, methods, and the expected outcomes. This meeting is important because it ensures that everyone understands the research process and agrees with the approach. It also provides an opportunity for the stakeholders to ask questions and share their feedback. After the meeting, the researchers should send a follow-up email summarizing the discussions, confirming the next steps, and sharing the finalized research plan. This helps ensure alignment and clarity throughout the research process. The key takeaway from this section is that research should never begin without proper planning. A research plan is not just a formality, it is a critical step that ensures that the entire research process is meaningful and effective. Without a clear plan, researchers may collect data that is irrelevant, incomplete, or difficult to interpret. Before starting any research study, there are 3 important things that must be confirmed. First, the research questions must be clearly defined. If the questions are unclear, the research will lack direction. This can lead to confusion during the interviews and result in data that does not address the actual problem. Second, the team must be aligned and supportive of all research. All stakeholders should understand the purpose of the study and be open to the results. Sometimes research findings may challenge existing assumptions, and it is important that the team is willing to accept and learn from these findings. Third, there must be clarity on how and when the research insights will be used. Research is valuable only when it leads to actions. If there is no plan to use the insights, the research effort may not create real impact. In simple terms, A well-prepared research plan ensures that the research is purposeful, aligned, and actionable. Now, let us move to the main topic of today's lecture, which is Interviewing 101. The primary goal of interviewing is to conduct a structured conversation that helps uncover the why behind the user behavior. This is very important concept to understand. In UX research, knowing what users do is not enough. We also need to understand why they behave in a certain way. This is where interviewing becomes extremely valuable. For example, imagine a situation where users frequently abandon an online shopping cart before completing a purchase. Through observation, we can see that users leave the process at a certain point. However, observation alone cannot explain the reason behind their behavior. When we conduct interviews, we can ask users about their experience. Some users may say that the process for the checkout is too complicated. Others may mention that they are concerned about payment security. Some users may even say that they were just browsing and had no intention to purchase. These insights helps us understand the underlying reason behind the user behavior. Another example could be a mobile application that users download but stop using after a few days. Observation may show a drop in usage, but interviews can reveal whether users found the app confusing, unnecessary, or lacking important features. Interviewing can also allow researchers to explore user emotions. Users may experience frustration, confusion, satisfaction, or trust. These emotional responses are critical for understanding user experience. In summary, interviews help researchers move beyond the surface level observation and gain a deeper insight into user motivations, thoughts, and experiences. To conduct effective interviews, researchers must develop several key skills. The first and most important skill is active listening. Active listening means paying full attention to participants without interrupting or making assumptions. It involves understanding not just what the participant is saying, but also how they are saying it. For example, if a participant hesitates while answering a question or seems uncertain, it may indicate confusion or discomfort. A good researcher should notice these signals and explore them further. The second important skill is asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions encourage participants to share details and responses. Instead of asking, "Did you like the app?" a better question would be, "Can you describe your experience using the app?" Open-ended questions allow participants to express their thoughts freely and provide richer insights. The third skill is probing or asking follow-up questions. Follow-up questions can help researchers explore responses in greater depth. For example, if a participant says, "I found the app difficult to use," the researcher can ask, "Can you explain what made it difficult?" Probing helps uncover detailed information that may not come out in initial response. Another important skill is maintaining neutrality. Researchers must avoid influencing the participant responses. This means not showing agreement or disagreement and not suggesting answers. For example, instead of saying the feature is confusing, right? The researcher should ask, "How did you find that feature?" Finally, developing interviewing skills requires practice. Researchers must continuously improve through trial and error, self-review, and repetition. Watching recordings of interviews and identifying mistakes can help improve performance. In summary, effective interviewing requires active listening, strong questioning skills, neutrality, and continuous practice. Bias is one of the most important challenges in the interviewing. Bias occurs when the researcher unintentionally influences the data being collected. This can happen in different ways and can significantly affect the quality of research findings. One common type of bias is leading bias. This occurs when a question suggests a particular answer. For example, asking, Don't you think this feature is useful? Encourages the participant to agree even if they have a different opinion. Another type of bias is confirmation bias. This occurs when researchers focus only on information that supports their assumptions and ignore information that contradicts them. For example, if a researcher believes that a feature is effective, they may interpret participants' response in a way that confirms this belief, even if the data suggests otherwise. Interviewer bias is another important type. This occurs when the researcher's tone, body language, and reactions influence the participants' responses. For instance, nodding too much or reacting positively to certain answers may encourage participants to respond in a particular way. Bias can also occur during data interpretation. Researchers may interpret responses based on their own opinions instead of what the participant actually said. The impact of bias is very serious. Biased data leads to incorrect insights, and incorrect insights lead to poor decisions and ineffective product improvements. Therefore, it is the responsibility of UX researcher to identify and minimize bias at every stage of research process. Another important aspect of interviewing is understanding what type of questions should be avoided. Bad questions can negatively affect the quality of response and lead to inaccurate data. One common type of bad question is leading questions. For example, don't you think this app is easy to use? This question suggests that the app is easy, which may influence the participant's response. Another type is double-barreled question. This type of questions asks about two things at once. For example, did you find the app easy to use and visually appealing? The participants may find it easy to use but may not find it visually appealing, making it difficult to answer. Vague questions are also problematic. For example, asking, "What do you think about the app?" is too broad and may not provide any useful insight. Loaded questions can also be misleading. These questions contain assumptions that may not be true. To avoid these issues, researchers should ask clear, neutral, and specific questions. For example, "Can you describe your experience using this feature?" is much better question. Learning how to ask effective questions is a critical skill for UX researchers. Good questions lead to meaningful answers, and meaningful answers lead to valuable insights. A UX interview is conducted using a structured approach called a moderator's guide or a mod guide. A mod guide is a detailed script that outlines how the interview will be conducted. It includes the sequence of questions, time allocation, and instructions for the interviewer. The structure of a UX interview typically contains of four main parts. The first part is the greeting. In this stage, the interviewer welcomes the participant and creates a comfortable environment. Building rapport is important because participants are more likely to share honest responses when they feel comfortable. The second part is the introduction. In this stage, the researcher explains the purpose of the interview, how the data will be used, and obtains consent from the participant. The third part is the interview. This is the main section where questions are asked and responses are collected. The researcher follows the mod guide but also adapts on the participants' responses. The final part is the wrap-up. In this stage, the researcher thanks the participant and closes the session. Following a structured format ensures consistency across interviews and improves the reliability of the data. The key takeaway is that the structure of a UX interview remains consistent across studies. Because of this, researchers can create reusable mod guide templates. These templates save time and ensure consistency. Using templates also help maintain quality and makes it easier to analyze data across multiple interviews. Thank you for your attention. In today's session, we discussed how to build research plan and explore interviewing as a key method in UX research. We learned about the goals of interviewing, essential skills, types of bias, and how to ask effective questions and how to structure an interview. Interviewing is a powerful tool that helps researchers understand user at a deeper level. It allows us to explore motivations, emotions, and experiences that are not visible through observation alone. When interviews are conducted properly, they provide valuable insights that can significantly improve product design and user experience. I hope this session provided you with a clear and detailed understanding of interviewing in UX research and how to apply it effectively. Thank you.